Okay, this is part 4 of our tutorial tutorial series on making a VR ball pit in A-frame. Uh, the we left off last time with code that looks like this. We'll just run it to refresh ourselves, and we have one red ball falling and landing on the plane. Uh, all we did in the last video was basically take the code that we previously had inside the scene to create that ball, and we ported that code down into JavaScript so that we can now use JavaScript to automate the creation of as many balls as we want. So that's where we're going now. And to do that in JavaScript, we will wrap this code that we have here. I'll take this blank line out of there just so that that's a little more clear. We'll wrap this code inside a pair of curly braces and then put a for loop. So we'll go like this to say this is the block of code that we want to have repeated. And I will actually just indent that in. And then we'll put at the top, it's called a for loop. Some of you are familiar with this. Some of you, this will be the first time you've seen this. It will cause the code inside those curly braces to run as many times as we want. And this is what this for loop looks like. We'll say for let I equals 0. I is kind of like a counter variable. It's counting how many times we're doing the loop. I is less than 50. That will be the number of times the loop runs in this case. I plus plus. Each time we run the loop, we'll increment I by 1. Okay, so if that didn't make any sense to you, don't worry about it. Just make sure you type what you see here, and what this will do will cause all of that, the stuff between those curly braces, to run that many times. We can change that number to be however many, whatever number we want. So now we'll create 50 balls just like that. We didn't have to do any copy paste. We can run the code and see what happens. And there's just one. Why is there just one? We've run into this problem before when we've done some copy paste, and that is actually there are 50 balls, but they're just all at the exact same position here. And so we want each one of these balls to have a different position, and the way we achieve that will be by setting their position variables values to random numbers. So let's, right after we create the ball, let's also now create a triplet of random numbers that we can use to represent the x, y, and z position. So we'll do let x equal, and here's how you do a random number in JavaScript. We'll say math.random, open close parentheses. That gives us a random number from 0 up to, but not including 1, the number 1. So it's a decimal number. So if we want to say, like, let's say our range, and so we have to multiply that and do some addition or subtraction to get it to be like a range of integer values that would be useful for x and y. So here's how we do that. If we want, let's say we'll have 10 different, a range of 10. So we can multiply our 0 to 0.9999, or basically 0 to 1, by 10. And so that would give us 0 to 9.9999 as our possible random numbers. And then let's shift that down by 5. So basically we have now a range of 10 possible numbers, 10 possible, like, integer numbers, starting at -5. So it'll be -5 up through +5 is basically what we're getting out of this. Really cutting some corners here for the explanation. But so later on, you'll go into more detail in your future classes to understand a little bit more about how that's working. So that's our basic template now. So let's do the same thing for y equals math.random times, let's start up high, like a 50. And so 50 possible values starting at 2. So 2 up through 52 is this range. And then our z math.random times, let's do a range of 10 values starting at -15. So we want all of these to be negative, right? So if we start at -15 and have a range of 10, then we'll go from -15 up to -5 as our range of possible z values there. Now we want to insert these 3 variables into this position value. We can't just write x, y, z here because this will set the position to the string literal x, y, z, and that's meaningless. In this case, we want the values of the variables that we've named x, y, and z to be in there. So we could go x, y, z maybe is a little tempting to do, but the we actually have to build a string. This won't work. We have to build a string using x, y, and z. So let's create a string called all pos for all position values. And so we'll say let all pos. That's a horrible name. We could totally come up with a better name for that. As programmers, we get to decide that name. Maybe we'll just stick with all pos for now. Okay. So now we'll take this variable called all pos, and that's what we'll set the position to. And all pos is x, whatever the value of x is, notice it's outside of quotes, plus the string literal space, plus y, plus the string literal space, plus z. So remember, like we can see up here, our string literal is made up of a number and a space, and then a number, and then a space, and then a number. So that's what we've created down here. Number plus a space, plus a number, plus a space, plus a number. All of that now gets stored in this variable called all pos, which is what we set the position to there. So let's test this out now. We should have now 50 balls falling from the sky. They're all starting at random x, y, and z positions, so maybe we'll actually see all 50 of them this time. There we go. Hey, that's kind of cool. Now I noticed, I don't know if you look carefully here, woo, there goes one off the back. There goes another one. These balls are rolling and sort of falling off the back and the sides of our plane here. So it may be interesting to actually see them falling down below the plane. And we can actually make this plane somewhat transparent. And so let's go back up to the HTML. We're changing our programming brain now. We're coming out of JavaScript, going back to HTML. And I'll show you how to make the plane somewhat transparent. So in the attribute list that's part of the opening tag for the plane, we're going to add another attribute. And so I'm going to go right before this angled brace there and add another attribute called material. And we're going to set this to, and this is the text here is going to look a little different than usual, so just watch it closely. Transparency, true. I probably have that wrong. Is it transparency? Or is it just transparent? It's transparent, sorry. Transparent, true. And then a semicolon, and then we can set how transparent. Opacity is actually lack of transparency. So an opacity of 1 is not transparent at all. Opacity of 0 is completely transparent. It means completely invisible. So let's do a 0.5. So it's in the middle, somewhat see-through, and let's have these balls fall again, and we'll see if we can see them actually like rolling off the back and going down below. There we go. We see some falling through the floor there, and we can kind of look down and watch them fall all the way down to infinity. We're actually looking through the floor right there, right? And if we move back here a little bit, oops. See if a few more fall. We can see the whole plane here. There goes one. We can watch them go all the way down. Okay. So let's try adding more balls. This will depend on your browser. Now, all this code is running in the browser, which means some browsers can handle 50 balls, some can handle 100 balls. Mine seems to handle 100 balls fine. That's kind of cool. Let's try 1,000. It's going a little slow. Yeah, kind of works. Okay. And then there's a lot of balls falling off the back there. Nice. A little laggy, but not too bad. You can see that, look at that. You can see the shape of the plane sort of in the middle there. That's kind of cool. All right, so a little laggy on 1,000. Everybody's browsers will differ there a bit. Mine, I've done 1,000 before, and sometimes it doesn't. They all kind of go down like this, 5 pixels at a time, and so it depends on also what else you're running on your computer at a time. I find for my computer, 200 is a comfortable number that gives us a good ball pit feeling, but doesn't overwhelm the browser. Okay, so have a little fun playing around with this. Maybe set these random values to be a broader range. Like you could take this X value and spread them out a little bit to the side. So let's say a range of 20 values, but we want to start now at -10. So we go -10 and plus another +10 gives us 20. That spreads it out there. You could also try doing the same thing with some of these other values. And also mess around with that number at the top of the for loop to see how many balls that your browser can handle. Okay, I'm gonna stop this here, and we'll do one more video, and in that last video, we'll look at randomly assigning colors to the balls so that there's a rainbow of colors falling down. So good luck, enjoy messing around with this code.